What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope you guys are still doing well on this first day after the draft. And now that we've spent a pretty good amount of time processing the nitty-gritty of the draft, I want to take a video here to take a step back and answer a broader question about this class, which is, how did the Seattle Seahawks do in terms of just getting good raw value? And that is something that I talk about a lot when it comes to drafts, because I think that the lack of focus on getting good value is a big reason why the Seahawks had so many bad draft classes for an extended period of time. And a refocusing on value is why their recent drafts have been so good. So therefore, when I look at a draft like this, even though I know the circumstances of this draft are a little bit different, I do want to make sure that I'm at least considering the value side. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, more on them a little bit later. But a couple different things I want to look at here. So first, we've got Warren Sharp of Sharp Football, and he put together a fun chart that for Sharp Football analysis that basically calculates the most valuable 2026 draft classes based on draft capital over expectation. Basically, what this is that they take a look at every pick each team made, and then they evaluate whether or not they, for one reason or another, and their methodology is complicated. I'm not going to spend a ton of time getting into it right now. What they do is they compare each pick to the value that they assign to the player versus where we got the player. So if you did well by this chart, you're on the left side. You're in the negatives. Negative is good. We have two teams that clearly did an incredible job getting good value, the Commanders and the Panthers. And what that means is they got players that were deemed high value compared to the picks they used to get them with. So the question is, did the Seattle Seahawks do a good job getting value in this draft? And as you can see, they're not on screen yet. And if you're looking at the screen, you'll see the logos of a bunch of different teams. The red line is kind of the break-even point, and the Seahawks are not on the left side of the red line or even close to the right side of the red line. And you actually have to go down pretty far to find them. So according to this chart, the answer is no. The Seattle Seahawks did not do a good job of getting good value. And that is kind of the thing that I come back to when I think about this class, because while I do think we addressed needs well, you see that there was a price to be paid when doing that. And most other works that do stuff like this will show the same. There are going to be other websites and going to be other pundits that put together value-based data like this. I can tell you with full confidence right now that the Seahawks are going to be in the not good value side of things because they addressed mostly with their first round pick a need rather than the value pick. I think they did pretty well with Bud Clark and Julian Neal, but they didn't get steals there. I think those were just good picks. And they did also spend draft capital late in the draft on guys that were probably not going to get drafted because of the UDFA consideration. Now, I don't care about that, but that's how things have broken down here. Now, the Seahawks are, I believe, 27th on this list, so that's not good. There is a little bit of a caveat here, though. They still did better than the other teams in their division. If you like sports, the best way to make them better and more exciting is using Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks, all you got to do is pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build lineups with a few taps. It's the daily fantasy stuff, but it's made super easy over there. Whatever sport you're into, give it a shot. And right now, Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All you have to do is use promo code HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far. It makes this daily fantasy thing very easy, and it makes watching the games way more exciting. Be sure to check out the social feeds feature so you can share lineups with your friends and tail partners or even fade their picks. Right now, Prize Picks is offering odds on the NFL draft. You have who's going to go where, what each team is going to do, how many of each position is going to go in each round, and so on and so on. Get on over to Prize Picks. Take advantage of that. So, download Prize Picks today, America's #1 sports app, and remember to use the promo code HMA. And remember, always gamble responsibly. Now, I'm going to move my head here so you guys can see, but yeah, the Seahawks, as much as they did not do well on this chart in the bottom 6, they're still #1 in their own division. The Cardinals did a little bit worse, the Rams did a good amount worse, and the Niners are living on a different planet here. Their draft was, in terms of value, an unmitigated, unstoppable disaster. And I will be spending some time talking about our division rivals and their drafts in I'd say over the next week at some point, just while I'm getting ready to do my draft evaluation stuff. But that is one thing that is worth noting here. The guys that we need to keep ahead of are not doing better. In fact, I think they're doing worse. I think they're clearly doing worse. I think even fans of other teams in the division would acknowledge Seattle had a better draft than they did, because the flaws with their drafts are so bleeding obvious. All right, let me bring my head back down here. And yeah, like I said, we'll talk more about the divisions, the other teams in the division and their draft. But there's one other thing I want to look at here. We got Seahawks Nerd here who put together a chart. Best and worst picks of the 2026 NFL draft by consensus board value gained. He filtered out Jermod McCoy because that's kind of a unique situation. But if you take a look at this, and I know everything's kind of small here, so I'm going to be zooming in a little bit, but you take a look at a list of the best value picks according to the consensus big board. #1, by the way, was Arvell Reese, which I know sounds a little bit funky, but the thing is, the things you get in the early part of the draft are always going to weigh very heavily, even if you only got a steal by a handful of picks, right? So understand that the earlier the pick is, the heavier, the weightier the steal or reach is by the standards of this chart. But if you take a look at this, so if you look at the pick team, just this column right here, Giants, Browns, Falcons, Cowboys, Buccaneers, Jaguars, Titans, Eagles, Lions, Buccaneers, Bears, Colts, Browns, Dolphins, Chiefs, Commanders, Ravens, Panthers, Packers, Commanders. Yeah, I'm not seeing the Seahawks, but I'm also not seeing any other team in the NFC West. So according to this chart, which does list out quite a few players and quite a few picks, there is not a single really good value pick in this entire division. Even the picks that were good, like Bizontis, they're not great value. They're just good value. They're appropriate value. So this division did not pick for value according to the consensus big boards. And some people might say, well, the consensus big boards could be wrong. Maybe, but you can trade down, get more value, and get those players anyway. Like, you can't tell me that the 49ers could not have gotten Stribling much later in the draft than they did. They did not need to pick him at 33. They probably could have gotten him in the 4th round, maybe even the 5th. That's bad business. That's a bad way of doing business. Now, if you go to the other side of this, this is the opposite. This is the worst value picks according to the consensus big board. And right away, you're going to notice something. So first of all, just to focus on the thing that really matters here, the Seahawks have one pick here, and it's the pick you would expect. Jadarian Price, who I believe they had ranked at 55 on the aggregate, or yeah, 53, and we took him at 32. So that is considered to be a bad pick in terms of value. It's not one of the 10 worst, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13th worst pick. So it's not terrible, but it's not good in terms of value. That being said, as you go through this list, you're going to see teams in the division all over the place. You've got Ty Simpson with the Rams in 2nd place. Stribling, who I just talked about, 3rd place with the 49ers. You go down a little bit more, there's the Seahawks pick, the Price pick, and that is their one listing here. But you keep going down. The Cardinals with Carson Beck are next. They actually had Bizontis as a bad value pick, which I don't agree with, actually. That's something I would push back on. I think Bizontis was adequate value. It's maybe a little bit of a reach, but not a big one. But they actually have him there too. Keep going down. We got Kalen Black with the 49ers. So the 49ers get bad value again there. The Rams with Keegan Trost were also on this list with the bad value pick. So this division, they didn't hit the value picks if you believe the charts. And I'm not saying I believe the charts sight unseen. I am saying that there is reason to believe that mistakes were made. Pretty big and weighty mistakes. And while the Seahawks didn't come out of this looking great, they did come out looking the best of any team in their division. So I know that we don't want to use the other teams in the division as the measuring stick. We want to use a more objective measuring stick. But I do think that there is something to be said for the fact that this was a little bit of a funky draft where you did have a lot of teams kind of go, you know what, we just want to get the guys we want to get. We are not going to play this game where we try to get value. This is not a good draft anyway, so value is subjective. Let's just get guys we like. And that's a dangerous game to play, and I'm not a fan of that game, but it is the game that I think a lot of these guys did end up playing, and I get it. All right, so that's what I wanted to talk about here. So, a couple different elements here. Yes, the Seahawks did not get good value in this draft, but they actually got better value than anybody else in the division. So, there's still a little bit of fun to be had here, even as I will admit, this is not the kind of draft class that is going to elevate you into a long-term great position, and I hope this is a one-year deal where next year we can be a little bit more focused on value. All right, go Hawks. Probably another video later today, we'll see. But yeah, give me your thoughts.